Guten Morgen, guten Chalamed, Erev Shvi Shal Pesach. We're going to talk about one of the halachas in today's Rambam. That the Rambam says, Perik Yudalet, halacha Yud Beis, in Hilchas Mechirah. And he writes, Geshem Shahai Noya, B'mekach U'memker, Kach Yesh Hai Noya B'dvar. Just like you can cheat a person, U'mekach U'memker, so you can't cause a person pain with words. Shenamar v'leiseinu ish esamisei yireisim elekecha ani Hashem. That's Hainois Devar. Okay, right off the bat, it should strike you, and definitely strikes me, as a problem. What does one have to do with the other? Cheating somebody money-wise, or telling somebody bad things about himself. As we'll see later, the cases that Rambam brings. We'll get into this a little further. Halacha Yud Gimel, let's see what that means. Explains the lav, and he says, Keitzad haya bal tshuva. If a person is a bal tshuva, don't tell him, remember your earlier deeds. If he's a son of converts, don't tell him, remember what your parents did. If he's a ger that wants to learn Torah, don't tell him things. I mean, it's extremely detailed, but he quotes the Gemara really. Somebody who ate all kinds of non-kosher things, you're going to come to learn Torah. Piagura from the Eibishter. If somebody was struggling, don't tell them, remember the reason you're doing all this, because you did all these terrible things. It's not appropriate. That's basically the point. And it's awesome. Now, again, they have no shaykhs to each other. Okay, we're talking about cheating, we're talking about teasing, hurting. The end of the parak, he goes on and he adds that Hanoi's Dvarim is even greater than Hanoi's mom. Teasing somebody, hurting somebody is worse than cheating it. Because it gives a number of reasons. Money can be given back. This can't. One is with his money, one is with his body. You hurt him personally. And then he goes on and brings a pasuk, and writes very big punishments if somebody chas v'shalom does that. Now the truth is that Rambam is quoting verbatim, pretty much, the Gemara in Bava Metzia, with some changes that are indicative of his what he's trying to change. But the question still remains: what does this have to do with? What do these two halachas have to do with each other? So it's a question on the Gemara too. But before we go there, I just want to mention that the Gemara brings another case that a person should not hang around a store or a place to look for food or to buy if he has no intention. In other words, window shopping is okay as long as you don't get into the store. But when you window shop and you go into the store and you start window shopping and you have no intention of buying, at least that's what it seems. The Gemara is talking about you have no intention of buying. It is also to do that. Now, the Rambam does not bring that halakha. Question is why? And the Gemara, when the Gemara brings the reasoning, it's just interesting to note that when the Gemara brings those things of why Hanois Dvarim is greater than Hanois Mammon, the Gemara does not mention it in the order of the Rambam. The Gemara reverses it. First brings the pasuk v'yaresa, brings zeb gufa zeb meinay, then brings zanit l'shavim zalenit l'shavim. It's interesting why, but perhaps we'll understand that soon. Taistus asks somebody the Akasha when it says there that Einos Devarim is Mamoinai is Gufa, Einos Einoy of Mammon is b'meinai, he asks that the Gemara in Agoizel Basra, which is in Baba Kama Daf Kufyutas, says Agoizel Chaveri Shaveh Pruta Kilu Gozel Nishmasa. Take somebody's money, it's like you're taking his soul. So it seems to be a gufay also. Taisha says that talking about a specific case where the person is very hungry and he has nothing to buy. But most people are not that desperate, so therefore it's only mammon. So in other words, what he's saying is that Gemara is only talking about a specific incident. The Rambam brings that Gemara. Doesn't bring it as a specific incident, brings it as a general halach. So we're stuck with the same question that Taisus asks. Why is every mina not gufa? Another issue that's interesting, and I want to read a Rambam that we learned way back in Hilchos Shuvah, the beginning of the cycle, early in the cycle, that is. And Perik Zayin Alocha Ches, the Rambam writes, Bali Tshuva darkem li shvolum v'novim b'yeseh. Bali Tshuva should be very downtrodden. They have to feel low, feel that they did terrible things, bad things. If the fools tease them about their earlier actions, and they tell them exactly the lashon emesh, you did this yesterday, and so on, and they remind them of what they did. So he says that they're not supposed to respond. They should be happy and know that this is something of merit to them, that they are suffering this. Because the more they get embarrassed from it, the better, the greater the schus. However, as the Rambam, it is a full, complete sin. What is this lashon? Complete sin, as opposed to what? There's a half a sin. The Matshuva is a masecha rishonim. Remember your early deeds. They tell him that. But he adds here a word that he didn't write in our halacha that we're learning today. In order to embarrass him. Or you can't remind him in Yon Madai Milam. In order to remind them. Ma osa, what he did. Akoil osur, it's all osur, muzar alav. Bechlal hanoyis dvarim, is here a Torah olav. Aleha, shenema v'leisayna yishasamis. So the problem with the Rambam is, first of all, he changes things. There he writes, Kedei levaishe, Kedei lahaskira. Here he doesn't do that. It would seem to be that there the Isser is only because you're intending to hurt him. Here he doesn't write. Second problem is that if he wrote it there, why do you have to write it again here? You can add there that, and not only about Shuvah, but everybody, and that the din is over with. He's got it rolled down. Also, as we said, the Lashon Ram Kishem Shanoi Kachan Hanois Dvarim. I mean, it sounds like it's literally feeding in one into the other. So, all right, and why doesn't he bring the halacha of Layitla Inav Alamekach? Just to note about that issue, we'll come to it. We'll come back to that issue. So it's obvious from this whole halacha that we have to take a second look at Hinois Mammon. There's a beautiful Rishon written, what Rishon writes, or Baruch Hasvardi, on the Gemara of Layitla. You shouldn't hang around making believe you want to buy something. So he writes Pirish. So one approach to that is simply you're hurting the Mechirah, because he's not going to sell to anybody else. He's waiting for you to buy. When you put your eyes on a Mechirah, he thinks he's going to buy it. He doesn't have money to buy it. Has a lot of pain. And he translates the Mechirah that the Gemara brings in a different way, which again may be the Rambam's take on it, but I'm not getting into this share now. The item is given over to your heart, meaning not the heart of the doer, not the heart of the guy who's hanging around. Other lekeach. Kol davar hamosul l'tzar alev. Anything that's given over to pain of somebody's heart, nema ba v'yireis lekach. Says yireis lekach. Kol oisan dvarim ben geir mikiyetzer ein be'ela tzar alev. The same idea as I know as dvarim. The dvar of ein bem shum chayva. You're not doing anything with your words. Alma bosa tzar alev azlinan. You see, you go according to tzar alev. I think Baruch Hasradi is telling us a very important point. And I believe maybe that Rambam follows on that point, and that's what the Gemara is trying to impart to us. That Hainoya is not just cheating. Obviously, you can't cheat. And shouldn't do things to cheat. But the main issue of Hainoya is the pain you are causing somebody by cheating. Oh, it's by doing things that cause the other person. He makes a sale, and the person realizes afterwards that he was cheated. The pain of it is what counts. It's davar hamoser l'leiv, according to the Baruch Hasradi and perhaps the Rambam follows in that approach. That is it's tsar halev that we're dealing with. That's the most important part of a noise moment and a noise dvar. And that's the message of the Mishnah, and that's the message of the Rambam. Just like there is a concept of hurting somebody's feelings in financial dealings, you can't hurt somebody's feelings just by using words either. Just words alone, pain of words alone is also hard. And that's the kashem and kach. That's the just like this, just like that. However, the Torah is differentiated between tsar halev that comes through mamay, financial dealings, which is one type of pain that you can cause, or pain that you can cause through using words. If so, the Rambam doesn't have to agree to Tosfos's point of that the case of stealing money from some Shavapruta is as if he took his soul, because the Rambam holds that's exactly this Gemara. That's what the Gemara is telling us, that when you hurt somebody financially, you are taking your soul. Okay, there it's stealing, here it's cheating. The difference is when it comes through money or when it comes through words. And that's the only difference. And that's where the Torah is separated. Anyway, that will explain to us why this halacha appears in Hilchos Mechirah, to tell you that Enos Mammon and Enos Devarim are one. Regarding the halacha that we mentioned, that a person shouldn't hang around and do and look like he's shopping for something and wants to buy something, and he hurts the other person by doing that. So there's a Sefer Yosef Emetz in Dinei Maser Matan. He writes, you shouldn't fool people. He gives an example that a person shamara upon him kilaretz likness alimker ve'en kavanasa l'sachem chaver. He's only teasing his friend. He's only hurting his friend. He refers to this as a Devarim. Or, and it also has a din of Gznevas Das. He adds the new Isser to this, which is stealing somebody's Das, his thoughts. In other words, he's thinking one way that you're doing something and you're really not intending that. So it could be that's why the Rambam doesn't bring it, because the Rambam brings the halacha of Gnevas Das in Perek Ches Halacha Aleph, a little further on. That's one of the next days. You can't steal their das. And he says, and even with words, das agrees with Varim also. The Gemara in Pesachim, Naf Kuf Yud Beis says Like Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi commanded his son, Rebbe, a few things. He, what he told him to be careful about. One of them was, don't window shop inside a store in a time when you don't have money. In other words, that was like, so the Mashal asked, well, he's telling his son Rebbe not to do a lav deraisa. That's the command. I mean, that's a simple thing that anybody knows, that you don't do things that are usher. So he doesn't say what, but he says it could be, there's a difference between basically al tamid and al yitle. He doesn't explain, but it's possible that yitle is explained by the Rishonim over there, Talmud Rashba, that he hangs around not intentionally, with no intent of buying, as we saw also before. He's laughing at the guy. Talmud could be that he wants to buy. He just doesn't have the money yet. He's hoping that as he hangs around, he'll be able to buy. That's one approach. But one thing is obvious, that it's clear that it's usher. That there's no he held there's no question that it's us. Okay, so basically what we're saying is, it's just going. This is just a side point to explain the al yitla, but the main point that we want to bring out is that Haino's mom and Haino's devarim are not separate. They're basically the same idea, and it's all about teasing somebody, hurting somebody's feelings. One comes through financial dealings, and one comes through words, and that's the point that the Rambam is making here. So, but we have to understand, as we said, why does he not mention this in Hilchos Tshuva if he's mentioning it there? And if he's mentioning in Hilchos Tshuva, why does he have to say it there? He can leave it to Hilchos Mechirah, which is a dual question always. When the Rambam writes halachas in a couple of places, there has to be a reason what he's doing. And that in Hilchos Tshuva, there seems to be added details. Levaisha, he's doing it to embarrass him, remind him what he did. So I just have to, I can't say I know that it fits perfectly into Hilchos Tshuva, but looking at the words in Hilchos Tshuva, I have the suspicion that what the Rambam is really talking about there is people not out to hurt him. You know, you see about Tshuva, and maybe he's not enough shuffle, he doesn't walk around with the amount of humility that he should. So there are people who think that they are the ones who are going to tell them, and as Rambam calls them, ksilim, fools. But nevertheless, their foolishness is based on a noble idea. By reminding him of who he is, I'm intending to embarrass him so that he should feel his level that he should, and therefore his tshuva should be a greater tshuva. And that's what the Rambam is talking about there. And that's why he adds the levaisha laskirei, masha asa. That's his intent. And that's why, in other words, he wants him to be that to help his tshuva. That'll be a shvalim v'anovim b'yesef. And he wants to help him with that. And on that, the Rambam writes, v'cheit gomorhu. The reason he stresses the v'cheit gomor, of course, v'cheit gomor. What else? V'cheit gomor meaning don't fool yourself that there is a justification of doing that for the sake of the other person. That is totally usher to hurt a person's feeling. In other words, I'm not interested in hurting him. I'm interested in helping him. It doesn't matter. That's not called helping. Which is an interesting thing in life in general. You got to be careful, even though you think it's the right thing. If it hurts somebody, you can't do it. So this is not a din that has to do with the general rules of Einos Devar, although it is also because of Einos Devar. It's a specific case that he says. Whereas in Hilchis Mechirah, there he's talking about Einos Devar of every kind. Not about that I'm out to help you. And therefore, he shouldn't have no reason then to bring it over there. Akapanim, the main takeaway, which is, there's a lot here that I took out from this piece because of time, and I know it's Erev Yontiv. I just want to bring out the main point that comes out of here, that the person's feelings is what we got to deal with, and that's what the Torah answered in Ainah. And there are so many Rambams in Ger and Eved which fit into this, but it's not the time to talk about it. But either way, the idea is still there, and everybody should have a good Yontiv. And we know that Shvi Shal Pesach is the union of Yanachim Shal Pesach, ultimately is the day of Mashiach. So we should be zeicher that are coming in Mashiach, the Karav Mamish, and a good Yontiv.